Assalamualaikum, my name is Tassim Isian and my matrix number is S71204, and today I will be presenting about the case for Ketapang Trading and Corporation and Jember Sdn Bhd. Introduction. For this case, there are 5 key matters involved, which is contract formation, validity, terms, breach and remedies. All of the answers are structured using highlight method. For formation of contract, the issue is whether a valid and enforceable contract was formed between Ketapang Trading and Corporation and Jember Sdn Bhd considering the stage of negotiation, contents of RFP and MOU, and the authority of the signatory. For the stated involved, they consist Section 2A, 2B and 2D Contract Acts 1950. The first case law applied is Gibson vs Manchester City Council. The court held there was no binding contract as the council's letter stating it may be bad to sell was merely on invitation to trade. The second case applied is Hyde vs Ranch case. The court held there was no contract. Hyde's counter-offer of £150 acted as a rejection of Ranch's original £1,000 offer. One rejected an offer cannot be revived or accepted later. The RFP sent by Ketapang Trading Corporation to Jember was not a valid offer under Section 2A because the lack of terms regarding delivery, schedules and quality assurance. The RFP was more like an invitation to trade, which is similar to the Gibson case. Jember's response via MOU, which included a 10% price increase and adjusted delivery, was a counter-offer, not acceptance. According to Hyde vs Ranch, a valid acceptance must be mirrored the offer exactly. Thus, no contract existed at this point. A binding contract was only formed later when both parties signed to agreement at an official event in Kuala Lumpur, fulfilling the Section 2A and 2B Contract Act. Conclusion. To conclude, a valid and enforceable contract was not formed during the RFP or MOU stage due to uncertainty and presence of counter-offer, but a legally binding contract was made when both sides signed the final agreement at the official.
My name is Natasha binti Panca Indra, S71280. Next, about validity of contract. For issue, whether the complex supply agreement between Ketapang Trading and Jember is valid and not voidable under Malaysian law according to the element of free concern. Law Statute, Section 15, coercion involves committing or threatening to commit an act forbidden by the Penal Code or unlawful detain property to compel a person to enter a contract. Section 18A, the positive assertion in a manner not warranted by the information of the person making it which is not true, thought he believed it to be true. For every case law, we have fair issue and help. First case is Esso Petroleum Co Ltd Wimardon, where incorrect technical information caused financial loss and the court held it was misrepresentation. Next case is DNC Builder Ltd Wiris, where builders accept a lower payment under pressure and the court ruled it was not a valid agreement due to duress. For application, Ketapang Trading was forced into sign a contract with Jember Sdn Bhd after its CEO received a blackmail email containing compromising photo. The trade pressure Ketapang to proceed with the contract that involved coercion and emotional duress. According to Section 15 and supported by the case DNC Builders Ltd Wiris, where builders accept a lower payment under pressure and the court ruled it was not a valid agreement due to duress. In this case, clearly have coercion making the contract voidable. Jember claimed their company could withstand temperature from -50 to +125 suitable for Malaysia's tropical conditions. However, testing showed it could only handle -20 to +101. Under Section 18A of the Contract Act, a false assertion made to induce a contract, supported by the case Esso Petroleum Co Ltd Wimardon, where incorrect technical information caused financial loss and the court held it was misrepresentation. For conclusion, to answer the issue just now, the answer is no. This agreement is not valid and can be voidable according to Section 15 and 18A. It was also supports with case law Esso Petroleum Co. Ltd. Wimardon, Barton W. Armstrong and DNC Brothers Ltd. Wiris.
My name is Norma Zainab binti Muhammad Saif. My metric number is S71544. So I will briefly explain about terms of contract based on case given using ILAC method. So first is issue. The issue is whether the terms of Ketapang Trading Co. and Jembal Sdn Bhd are enforceable under Malaysian contract law. So next for law, as you can see there is two statutes here. For the first one is under section 30 Contract Act 1950 state that any agreement that is uncertain or cannot be made certain is considered void. This means if the terms are unclear, the contract cannot be enforced. So second is section 16(1)(a) Sales of Goods Act 1957 state that if the buyer tells the seller specific purpose of buying the goods or relies on the seller's skill or judgment, the good must be reasonably fit for that purpose. Next for case law. First, in Karupan Chetty versus Swathiam, the agreement was for land rental at 35 per month, but the duration was stayed for as long as he likes. The court held this agreement void because the period was uncertain, which is against the requirement of certainty under contract law. Second, in Burley versus Whip, the seller described a reaping machine as nearly new and lightly used, but the machine delivered was old and damaged. The court ruled this was a sale by description, and since the goods did not match the description, the buyer was entitled to reject the machine and refuse payment. Next is application. Ketapang clearly informed Jembal that the semiconductor component must withstand extreme temperature from negative 40 Celsius to 125 Celsius. Jembal claimed they met the standard, but in fact, the component will only taste up to negative 20 Celsius to 101 Celsius. Under section 16(1)(a) of the Sales of Goods Act 1957, this is a breach, as Ketapang relied on Jembal's skill for a good fit for that purpose, similar to Burley vs. Whip, where the product delivered did not match its description. Also, some contract terms were vague, like delivery based on monsoon condition and quality based on industry standard, without clear definition. Under section 30 of the Contract Act 1950, such uncertain term may make a contract void, supported by Karupan Chetty vs. Swathiam, where an unclear lease duration make the contract unenforceable. So for the lastly is conclusion. In conclusion, to answer whether the terms of the contract between Ketapang Trading Co. and Jembal Sdn Bhd are valid and enforceable under Malaysian contract law, the answer is no. It's according to Section 30 Contract Act 1950, Section 16(1)(a) Sales of Goods Act 1957, and supported with case law Karupan Chetty vs. Swathiam and Burley vs. Whip.
My name is Natika Aisha binti Kamaruddin. My matrix number is S70037. I will be explaining my part regarding on the case, which is breach of the contract. For the issue, can Ketapang Trading Company claim compensation for its financial losses, including liquidated damages and loss on future business due to Jembal's breach? The law, statute section 74 from Contract Act 1950 states that the affected party is allowed to claim compensation for losses that are direct and expected from the breach of the contract. For Section 76 from Contract Act 1950, anyone who legally cancels a contract can claim a full compensation for losses caused by its non-fulfillment. For case law, Hadley vs. Basendel 8054, the losses are recoverable if it is arising naturally or is foreseeable due to communicated special circumstances. For Bumi Armada vs. Stark Races, full compensation can be claimed by the affected party for its direct losses caused by a breach of contract. So for application, Jembal Sdn Bhd had breached the contract by failing to deliver the 50,000 microprocessors, causing Ketapang Trading Company to suffer 7.9 million penalty and lose 25 million at yearly contract. these financial losses are directly caused by Jembal's action. So under Section 74 from Contract Act 1950, Ketapang can claim compensation for the losses and penalty from Jembal because it is expected and naturally caused from the breach of the contract. And if Ketapang cancels the contract due to Jembal's past product claims, Ketapang can still claim compensation for the losses. It is also supported by the case law of Hadley vs. Bazandel 1854, which the court said that compensation can be claimed if the losses are foreseeable and expected. The case law Bumi Amada vs. Crisis also states and shows that full damages can be claimed if it is from direct losses. So in conclusion, Ketapang has the right to claim for losses it suffered. The penalties and losses Ketapang had suffered is caused clearly by the breach of contract. These losses are expected and direct from Jembal's action. So regarding Section 74 and 76, and also supported by the two case laws that I just mentioned, it fully supports Ketapang's right to claim for its losses. So in short, Jembal has to be held responsible to pay for damages that it has caused Ketapang.
My name is Munira Fana binti Muhammad Saini and my matric number is S70795. So today I will present about remedies. The issue is whether Ketapang Trading Corporation can claim to Jembal Sdn Bhd due to damage which are liquidated damage. The law is Statute Section 74(1) Contract Act 1950, Section 75 Contract Act 1950. Next, for the cases, Hadley vs. Bazandel. The fact is, Hadley's mill suffered due to a broken crankshaft. He hired Bazandel to deliver it for repair, but he did not inform him that the mill could not operate without it. Delivery was delayed, causing profit losses. The court held Bazandel was not liable as the loss was not foreseeable. Hadley did not inform him that the delay would stop all mill operation. Next cases is Cubic Electronic vs. Mars Telecommunication. The fact is, Mars paid 3.04 million in deposit to buy land and machinery from Cubic but failed to sign the SPA on time. Cubic terminated the contract and kept the deposit. Masters claiming it was an unfair penalty. The court ruled for Cubic under Section 75. Once there is a breach and a contract clause for compensation, the incorrect party can claim it unless the defaulting party proves it is unreasonable. For the application, Jembal Sdn Bhd failed to deliver 50,000 microprocessors due to the monsoon season, causing Ketapang Trading Corporation to breach its own 25 million. As a result, Ketapang had to pay 7.9 million in liquidated damage and lost its annual income. This qualified as compensatory damage under Section 74(1) of the Contract Act 1950 as it naturally arose from the breach. Jembal was aware that the components were crucial for a national project, so they should have foreseen the deliveries. If there was a liquidated damage clause, Ketapang could also claim under Section 75 provided the amount was reasonable and not excessive, supported by the case Cubic Electronic vs. Mars Telecommunication. Therefore, the conclusion is Ketapang Trading Corporation is entitled to claim damage from Jembal Sdn Bhd under Section 74(1) and 75 of the Contract Act 1950. The losses was real, measurable, and foreseeable by both parties. Ketapang can claim compensatory, consequential, and liquidated damage. Cases like Hadley vs. Bazandel and Cubic Electronics support that compensation should restore Ketapang to the position it would have been in if the contract had been properly fulfilled. For conclusion, overall, this case clearly involves several important legal issues under Malaysian contract law, which include contract formation, validity, terms, breach, and remedies. The final contract is affected by serious issues like coercion and misrepresentation, which make the agreement not fully valid and possibly voidable under multiple legal provisions, unclear terms, and failure to meet promise specification further weaken
the enforceability of the contract. Jembal's failure to deliver causes Ketapang major financial and business loss. Based on the fact and law applied, Ketapang has strong legal ground to succeed in its claim and be compensated for the losses suffered.